have Joanne Sheahan, Senior Executive Climate Action and Sustainability Enterprise Ireland. Joanne works in Enterprise Ireland's newly established Climate Action and Sustainability Unit. Prior to joining EI, she worked for the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, managing the RD&D programme for industry and academia. During this time, she was the Horizon 2020 National Delegate for the Energy Work Programme. Joanne has also worked for RPS Energy in London and Environmental Resource Management as a sustainability, energy and environmental consultant on a broad range of projects for clients across energy, chemical and ICT sectors. Joanne, you're very welcome, and you'll be discussing Enterprise Ireland's climate action funding supports.
Hi everyone, thank you. I think if my first slide could come up. Great. So my name is Joanne Sheahan. I am a Senior Executive on Enterprise Ireland's new Climate and Sustainability Unit. So I'm just going to give you a broad overview of what Enterprise Ireland does. So EI helps companies to start, innovate and scale internationally. We work with over 5,000 Irish-owned businesses across all sectors. We offer leadership, competitiveness, innovation, networking and financial support. And we also deliver seed and venture capital schemes. Enterprise Ireland also works with a network of 31 local enterprise offices through our Centre of Excellence to support small and micro businesses around Ireland. So undoubtedly, climate change will be the biggest disruptor for businesses, for companies around the world. And for Irish companies, this means opportunities to compete and to grow as global investment in low carbon, resource efficient future accelerates. But it also creates the need to comply with enhanced regulations, as well as the demands of customers and investors for credible sustainability impact reporting. It's really important to keep the policy context in mind. So at a European level, we're all very aware of the European Green Deal, but it's also initiatives and mechanisms like the EU Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism that we need to be mindful of that will have an impact on Irish businesses. For example, CBAM aims to prevent shifting of demand away from products produced within EU to products produced in low, no carbon tax jurisdictions. And of course, the national policy context is important as well. And I guess at the top of that is the Climate Action Plan that was updated and released last week. But I suppose what we keep asking ourselves in Enterprise Ireland is, will this be enough to make businesses act? And what we're finding is the focus needs to continuously be on the business benefits to ensure that companies engage in this area. And they include significant acceleration in market demand for sustainable products and services, maximizing opportunities in the low carbon, resource efficient economy of the future, and importantly, remaining highly competitive relative to international counterparts. Because what we're seeing is that Irish companies aren't necessarily at the same level as our European counterparts. For example, a recent EIB investment survey showed that Irish companies were the worst in the EU for investing in climate change. And we see that internally in Enterprise Ireland as well. So every year, Enterprise Ireland conducts an annual business review survey. In 2021, we surveyed 2,500 client companies. And two of the questions we asked were around climate action and climate response. So one question asked, how important is having a climate action response? And only 25% of companies came back to say it was very important. When we asked, have you developed a climate action response, only 22% of companies came back and said that they had. And I suppose this goes back to then, how do we drive this agenda and then make it important for our client companies? And really, it's the competitiveness piece that we're seeing as driving change. More and more of our companies are coming back and saying that the companies, the multinationals that they're supplying into, are now expecting, requiring, demanding that their suppliers have have, I suppose, credible sustainability credentials in place. So the likes of Waitrose, Danone, Unilever and Nestle all have significant sustainability ambitions and aims over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And they want to engage with suppliers who will meet those ambitions and support them as they go through this change. Again, we see it in the tender documents that are coming back from multinational companies that Irish companies are supplying into. For example, here, an NHS tender for ambulance conversions in the UK and a Disney supplier background questionnaire, all asking around environmental sustainability and environmental policy for potential suppliers. Sustainability is also a key driver for foreign direct investment into Ireland, undoubtedly. And key requirements include competitive energy costs and security of energy supply. So where do we see companies needing support, or where are we seeing companies needing support? Well, undoubtedly, there's an awareness and thought leadership challenge. Companies need to start planning a response now. That's the biggest challenge is just starting the process. Companies should be acting now on low-hanging fruit in relation to energy and water efficiency, and really looking to develop detailed sustainability business plans that integrate sustainability into future company strategy. And there needs to be targeted and increased financial supports, and there needs to be a focus within the company on collaboration with stakeholders, beyond suppliers, customers and researchers, also to working with competitors to understand what opportunities are out there and make the most of them. And of course, there needs to be engagement with not only Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, but also Scope 3 emissions need to be considered by our client companies. Oh, sorry now. So just in relation to those Scope 3 emissions, I suppose in relation to Scope 3 emissions, their targets will increase supply chain pressure undoubtedly globally, and that will have an impact on Irish companies. What does a company transformation journey look like? Again, going back to Scope 3 emissions, it's addressing the full scope of company emissions. And we know with Scope 3, it's a much more complicated, convoluted, and a significant undertaking for a company to really start to engage with bringing down their Scope 3 emissions as much as possible. What does a company transformation journey look like? Again, it's commitment and vision of management. There needs to be the ambition to form a team within the organization. Gathering data and setting up systems to profile resources is absolutely key. Creating action plans across the business, and then ensuring that there's a monitoring and a review process of those actions. Sustainability needs to be brought into the company strategy and really viewed as an opportunity. It is a challenge, but there are huge opportunities in this area for companies. There needs to be an openness generally with partnering with others, including industries, suppliers, technology centres, and also an openness in relation to communicating results and a transparency both internally and externally based on external verification of what the company is doing in relation to sustainability. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Climate Enterprise Action Fund, which was launched earlier this year in Enterprise Ireland. The CEF, Climate Enterprise Action Fund, consists of 4 different supports: the Climate Action Voucher, Green Start, Green Plus, and Green for Micro. For more information, I'll go through each of these supports, but I would suggest for more information around each of the supports, I would recommend having a look on YouTube at our webinar series that we did earlier this year, focusing in on the food and drink sector, the manufacturing sector, and the ICT and services sector, where we brought in client companies who had availed of these supports to talk about why they did, what the reason was, what the challenges were, and what the benefits were of utilising these supports available through Enterprise Ireland. The links are there, and I'm sure the slides will be available at the end to be able to click through. So let's start with the Climate Action Voucher. Project costs of up to €1,800 and a grant of 100% funding. The eligible cost element is for a technical service provider to come into the company to provide 2 days of consultancy services. And you can use the Enterprise Ireland directory of green service providers to pick the consultant right for the project that you might have in mind. Eligible activities include resource efficiency assessment, renewable energy potential, introduction to corporate sustainability, and introduction to circular economy thinking. Then Green Start. So that's a bigger grant of project costs of up to €6,300 and a grant of 80% funding. And again, it's bringing in a technical service provider to provide training and advisory services for up to 7 days this time. And that person, that expert, can assist with the preparation of a very basic environmental energy carbon water management system. But eligible activities go beyond that to carbon footprinting, eco-design, circular economy thinking, sustainable packaging, life cycle assessment. And you can use the directory of green service providers that's available through Enterprise Ireland, but you can also use a consultant, maybe from an international consultant or somebody else outside of that service provider directory. I'm going to skip through this and just talk directly about a case study that used Green Start. So Teeling's Whiskey Company, the objectives that they had when they got the Green Start was to implement a very basic energy management system, to improve energy monitoring and reporting, and to conduct feasibility on certain energy conservation projects that they had identified. The outcomes included energy performance indicators, which were established, and potential energy saving opportunities that were identified. Green Plus is a much more significant grant with project costs of up to €100,000 and a grant of up to 50% funding. Here, the eligible cost element includes not only the service provider providing training and advisory services, but also the company can have 10 project team members' salary costs covered, or they can also have a training course covered, the fees for a training course covered as well. With a Green Plus, there's a huge range of activities that can be done under a Green Plus. So, for example, that service provider can assist again with preparation of basic environmental energy carbon water management systems, but also align to standards like ISO 14001 and 50001, and as well as that, align to sustainability frameworks and disclosure platforms. Again, the company can use the directory of green service providers, but they can also go outside that if they need to. So I'm just going to skip ahead to a case study with William Grant and Sons Manufacturing Limited, where the objectives was they had when they engaged with Green Plus and they got their Green Plus was to develop and implement an environmental management system, ISO 14001. The outcomes of the project included strict controls and significant investment made in key areas, including wastewater quality improvement, efficiency improvements, waste management areas designed and installed, processes for monitoring energy use, biodiversity projects that were planned, and a water reclamation project as well. And I'm just going to skip through these just so I don't use up too much time. The final support within the Climate Enterprise Action Fund worth mentioning is Green for Micro. So this is a free pilot program for micro enterprises of up to 10 employees trading for less than 6 months. And this allows for 2 days mentoring and consulting over a 6 to 12-week process. It's an online application process, so it's really quite straightforward. And again, you can utilize the Green Directory of Service Providers that's available on the Enterprise Ireland website or through Enterprise Ireland. The eligible activities include resource efficiency assessment, renewable energy potential, circular economy, sustainable strategy, life cycle assessment. So a huge remit of different activities that the company can engage the consultant to support them with. I've mentioned a couple of times the Enterprise Ireland Green Directory. We have a directory of about 70 service providers and consultants who have a deep and broad expertise across all of the different areas that can be covered with any of those supports. You can access the Green Directory on the Enterprise Ireland website, but also for consultants and companies who might be interested in joining the directory, you can do that by contacting our green mailbox, green@enterpriseireland.com. So just to give you an idea of how clients are engaging with these supports. So over the last year, we've seen a real diversity of client needs, particularly with Green Start and Green Plus, which in 2019, 2020 was still quite focused on the energy piece. But now what we're seeing is companies engaging with waste, water, carbon footprinting, communications, environmental management, and specifically really looking to develop sustainability strategies within their organization. With the climate action voucher, again, energy is still the first area that companies are engaging with, but also looking more at renewable energy potential, sustainability strategy and decarbonization planning, and water and materials and waste as well. I've also included a couple of slides here covering some of the other supports that are available in Enterprise Ireland for our client companies and for companies outside of those client companies as well. Because it's important to be mindful of the fact that Enterprise Ireland has this huge range of supports available, and any of these could be used for environmental, climate, sustainability projects, but they might necessarily fall under the Climate Enterprise Action Fund directly. So things like operational excellence or strategic consulting support, any of the RD&I supports like the Agile Innovation Fund, which is a grant of up to €300,000 with 50% funding available. Similarly, third level collaboration supports like the Innovation Voucher, innovation partnerships can all be used to support, or can all be used with the slant of sustainability, climate, environment as well. And I've also included a slide around some of the other resources that are available from other agencies and organizations that should be made aware, I suppose, to companies who are looking to start or looking to continue their journeys in relation to sustainability and climate. For my last slide, I just want to go back to the importance of developing robust environmental credentials to ensure company competitiveness in the future. So what we're seeing again and again is verifiable sustainability credentials are becoming essential for exporters as global supply chains continue to decarbonize. And there will be a significant competitiveness impact on our exporting companies if they don't adapt quickly to this new reality. And what we're seeing is that many Irish-owned companies are at the very, very, very start of their journey and in often struggling to fully grasp the risks and opportunities arising from climate change. What we're likely to see is a significant need for greater capital investment in decarbonisation across the enterprise base in the future. And that's really important to keep in mind as you're developing sustainability strategy within your own company. What's likely going to be needed is significant capital investment in decarbonisation. So having that in your mind as you're developing the strategy, the business plan for the company, sustainability has to be right there alongside all of the other investment requirements of the company for the next 3, 5, 10 years. So that's it. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joanne. It's great to see such significant funding available for Irish companies. So it's great to get that detail. Next up, we have